Hi everybody, this is me mudding this up now. Whenever you do anything like this, always make sure you get reference material, because the best material to look at for where to make things muddy, make it look realistic, is to actually look at the real tank. So if you look at the wheels, look at this photograph, there's not tons of mud stuck all over everything, it's kind of just around a bit. I might be a little bit artistic and just leave some of the paint through a little bit to make it look more the way I want it, because model making is more of an art sometimes. If you try and make things look completely realistic, that's great, but sometimes it's nice to have your own thing, isn't it? And also lots of reference. Alright, because you can't go wrong with reference. It gives you the best idea of what the mud and everything should look like and where the mud would fall. Like if you look at this picture, you can see where the mud's being chopped up all around here. Yeah, so always have reference. And what I'm going to do is start on the lower hole. So I'm going to take this on, move it, take this off and move it, take this off and remove it, so I can work on just the lower hole and literally the underside first, just to get my mojo on what I'm doing. Because if you start on the top and you get it wrong, you're a bit stuffed. So always work on the lower hole and then work outwards and up. And then by the time you get to the turret, you should know what you're doing. That's what I do anyway. Anyway, look, I'll be back in a tick. So the concoction I'm going to use is heavy earth with a bit of Russian earth pigment put into it. And if you can see that, hopefully with that, should be quite close. And I'm going to make it up into a little mixture to get the right colour that I want that is on this reference. Okay, because this is where they're doing it. It's where it's happening, isn't it? This is the mud that they're in. And I'm going to do the wheels, but I'm going to do the underside first to make sure this is what I like. Okay, so let me, I'm going to use my paint mixing pot. I'm going to put some pigment in, and I'm going to put some heavy earth, and maybe a bit of turned dirt splashes in as well, to make up the mix that I want to put on the bottom of the hole. Okay, so let me mix those up and I'll show you what it looks like in here, and then we'll have a go at applying it. Right, I've got my bits out, so I put Russian earth, heavy earth, and no, that one, splashes. Which one? This one, turned dirt. Okay, I'm just going to mix it up now. I've put some odorless thinner there. This is a little bit darker than that, but it should dry. So what I'm going to do is, let me crack on with this, and I'll quickly show you what it looks like when I've done it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it and this is what the dusting is. See, so hopefully it blends a bit. Alright, and if you do it on the bottom like this, you can get your mojo before you do anything at the top. Now the bottom's always going to be more dirty, isn't it? If you want to get some pigment, because it will stick, because it's on this. See, and this is before you start putting any other mud on. So you know you got this on, you can start dabbing pigment on, give a bit of contrast. You see, so it doesn't look like it's just completely painted on. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. It's not too shiny or. And yeah, so again, I'm doing this at night, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. But remember that all this at the back is going to be unified with splashes. Alright, it's not just what you see here. If you look at, I can't see this. You see this now, you start to use it a bit like, you see this, you start to use it a bit like, that's it, streaking, but you see the dusting is a base. It's a base for the rest of this. So it starts to look like that. That's probably a bit much, but like I say, that's why I'm doing plotting first, so I can kind of get to what I want. I'll show you what I mean, but if it splashes, so you can put splashes on like that as well to break it up a bit. But let me finish it and I'll show you what I mean. Right, everybody, that's the process finished. And I'm hoping that's not monotone. Like I say, if you do it on the bottom of the hole first, you can make a complete hash of it, but it just gets your mojo going. So you don't start messing up on the bits that matter. Okay, so that was a combination that I showed you in the other video. Also with some Russian earth pigment, and because it's going onto the splashes and stuff, it sticks. And also some European earth I've dabbed on a bit as well, just to break up the monotony. And like I say, hopefully it is the same as the reference. So that's the idea, is to try and get it to look as close as you can to the reference. This is the way I've always done it. So I did the pre-dusting with the airbrush, and then I used kind of like them, and they do stay, depending on what you're putting them on with. If you're putting them on with the mud and stuff, when it's still a bit tacky, it will stick on. Or you can use pigment fixer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mud up the wheels, but I'm going to use pigments. And I'm not going to do it too heavily, because this tank, as you can see, there's a lot more damage to it than what would be on mine. So I'm not going to do it too heavily. Right, so I'm doing this in the I'm just so busy in a minute with everything else. And like I say, I don't do YouTube as a YouTuber. I'm kind of I just build a model and I film it, and it might help someone. Probably not, but it might do. Russian earth is kind of spot on for the coloration. All right, so what I'm going to do is, and it's really simple, you basically just get some odorless thinner. Oh yeah, indispensable pork scratchings. If you're not British, you probably don't understand what these are. Basically, it's bits of cooked pork skin, and some of them are hairy. If you're American, I don't know if you call it pork rinds, but look at that. Look at that. Also break your teeth. Anyway, so put a bit of pigment out. And then you basically get a paintbrush and make it into this little kind of goo. You have to wait until it dries. And then when it dries, if you don't like it, because you're not using any fixer in it, you can get it off. So look, start at the front. So I'm not going to do all of it. Get a bit of kitchen towel too, so you can take any off that you're not sure of. And this is really that simple. And I promise this will sit. And this dries, and it's the same way I did the chieftain. And then I'll show you in a minute, when it's dried, what it looks like. And it works fine. You just do that. Try and put a bit more on some wheels than others. But again, always check your reference. Okay? And when this dries, it will go more that colour. Now, I love pigments. In the old days, they were just pastels. So basically, you would go to an art shop. When I was a kid, you'd go to an art shop and you would just buy pastels of the colours that you want, and then you'd nick your mum's food grater and then grate them. Oh, what I would say was pigments don't work very well on a glossy surface, so satin is fine. Matte, I've never done matte because I do like trying to remove some of this. And if it's on completely matte, I'm wondering if it actually, because all it is, well, like it says, it's a pigment. If you put this in paint, it becomes, in a medium. If I put this in varnish, it will turn into paint, wouldn't it? So that's all it is. And now I'm just going to let this dry. So I've got to do the other side. I'll let this dry and I'll show what it looks like. And now you can get bits of it off if you don't like quite what's happened. And then afterwards, then you can fix it. All right. And then put the mud on. So it's kind of that. And I'll show you when it comes back on again, when it's dried, what it looks like. Okay. Just takes a bit of time, that's all. Right, now everybody. Next little bit. So the pigment mush that I put on this is now dry. And I'm going to show you what I do to change it a bit. I don't leave it like this. So let me just show you what I'm doing and take the top bit off so we can just work on the lower half. So give me a tick. I'm going to use pigment fixer. And I might use a little bit of European earth as well to lighten up places and make it look a little bit dried and mud on there. Okay, but this stuff does the job. And in fact, I don't use a paintbrush to put this on, but I might try something different. I might use my airbrush to spray pigment fixer on. Really all this is enamel, I think, matte varnish. Do you see in the bottom? So make sure that you also shake this stuff up, because it's literally, I think it's enamel with just enamel varnishing. I bought some new stuff as well, just in case, because I haven't used it for a bit. So look, let me get the top off and we'll start showing you what I do to change the coloration. And then after that, then I add some chunky mud and also some bits and bobs and some dried leaves and things. Anyway, right. So I'm just using my spray pot to hold it up a bit. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start removing pigment that I don't want. See it all coming off? Because if it's just put on with white spirit, but odorless thinner, it won't paint it. Okay, and what I'm trying to do is leave the pigment in the crevices and everything else, and then I'll fix it. So hopefully you can start to see a difference. I've put a massively bright warehouse light bulb in my room in the main light, so I'm hoping this makes a little bit more sense. Now the other thing you can use to get rid of pigment, like I say, you can just get rid of it again with some more odorless thinner. So hopefully it's not getting out of the camera. So to just get it back off again. Oh. So look, let me find the other thing I was going to do. Can you use sponges as well? You can use sponges. Alright. Which even takes more, or so you can take off your finger. So it's, let me just find a sponge and I'll show you as well. Right, here we go, this thing. So this works really well, because then if you do this, you see it takes some of the mud off of the bolt heads, or the pigment. I just really want to try and keep this so it's inside these edges here. And again, if you look at the reference, so if you look at this sort of thing. And this is why I'm also going to use European earth and put that on with the pigment fixer. And fix the other stuff in place. So again, if you look at this, this, that, this, that, yeah. So we're going to carry on. And what you want to do is don't make it too uniform in some respects. We're also going to chip these aluminium a little bit. But I want to do that after I've muddled it up. So let me just do here again. Not too much. And just say I'm trying to keep it more within the wheel wells, but trying to lift it off of anywhere else. And try and get it so it doesn't look too uniform. But it's what I mean with pigment. And you see, look, it's not coming off massively easy, is it? And then once this is fixed, that's all right. And then if you want, leave that for a minute and maybe do one with just a brush. But can you feel the pigment flying off? So it doesn't hold it. If you just use there we go. So if you just use the thing, a lot of it comes off. It goes everywhere, but once you've used this, it just stays on. Oh, that. Okay. So let me crack on with this, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And let me just do one more. So if we did this one with just the so do you see? So using this sponge. And then I'm gonna, don't tell the wife, I chuck these in the washing machine to get rid of it. Shh. Just remember not to put it in with her favourite blouse. Right, so anyway, so you get contrast, and again, look at reference. Now this is quite damaged, this tank, and muddied up. I don't want this one to be as much as that, so I'm not going to go full pelt on this. So let me just do this, and then I'll show you when they're all done, and then I'll show you when I add a little bit of pigment fixer, and I'm going to use a little teeny bit of European earth as well. Okay, back in a tick. Right, so I've taken quite a lot off with the sponge, as you can see. I'm now going to, I just want to take a little bit more off the hubcaps. Now, as I said, I'm a bit out of my comfort zone with this. Normally I do weathering with much lighter pigment and much lighter mud and stuff, like, you know, the German stuff and the British stuff. This is heavy dark earth, and it does freak me out just a little teeny bit, because I don't really do it that much. But if you can see, you can just remove a bit of the pigment still. Let me get a bit of paper to show you, because it's just basically pastel dust, and it's got no carrier, you know, it's got no varnish to hold it on. All paint is just a pigment with a varnish of some sort, and the varnish is what holds it. So you can get, if you don't like something, you can just remove it a smidge. It's like here, I want to try and get this a bit brighter there, and maybe a little bit there to take a bit off. And if you can see the paper, do you see it's come off? Leave that to dry a minute. So it's like that. As you can see up here, that's why I've already used some of the flat earth, European earth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get another paint brush, and don't use your nice brushes for all this malarkey, because you'll just destroy them. It's not, keep a set of normal, like, not great brushes for doing all of this, because you'll just trash them. You don't really want to do that. So I'm going to take another brush, and I've got some European earth and just the pigment itself, and I'm just going to lighten up some of the wheels, just so it doesn't look so monotonous. And this is a background for when we put the proper mud on. And then I'm going to pigment fix this. You see what I'm trying to do? I'm just trying to break up the monotony of the mud. This is what I mean about model making. It's not, it's also artistic. If you make models, it is ever so slightly artistic, because you don't want things to be too monotonous, because it will just look a bit odd and just look a bit, well, basically pants. So try and vary it a bit, so some a little bit more. Thank you, Will. Is that where you want it? Okay. So you see what I mean? So it's just changing it up a bit. I got some ammo city dust as well, because I think this tank, being in Bergamot, would have dust on it. But it was like, I'm trying to do it so it's not actually seen as much damage as it did on some of the reference photos. It's like not got quite there yet, and it's been going up the road. Now if you look at some Ukrainian vehicles, but when you haven't been in to battle yet. They've used like sort of main roads, not gone much cross country, and it's kind of muddy-ish, but not like mad. And again, it comes back to what I was saying all the time, is that if a tank's not got much damage on it, then it's not been that much cross country. So if it's not been that much cross country, it's not going to have much mud. If it's got loads of damage on it and fenders are off and bits are broken, it will have more weathering on it and more mud or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because it's been damaged more. So I'm sort of happy with this bit. So put a little bit just there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pigment fix that now. So that can't change. I'm quite happy with that. I don't think that looks too uniform to me like this. So let me use some pigment fixer, and then I'll do the other side, which don't need to see, and then we're going to move on to actually adding some chunky mud, just little teeny bits of it, that's all, onto this. And then the tricky thing is going to be blending it upwards onto the main hole. Okay, so yeah, but like I say, this is completely out of my comfort zone. I find this quite frankly a bit scary. Mig adds pigments and stuff to his like splashes and things. I think the reason being is you don't need pigment fixer them, because if it's within the splashes liquid, which already has varnish and pigment fixer in it, you can just brush that away with one of these even more, and then you know the residue stays on. But if you've got a model that you're just keeping in a display case, well, you can keep it like this, it's not going to do anything. But if this is running, it's not going to happen, is it? So it needs to be stuck on. All right, we'll be back in a tick. Right, so here we go. Pigment fixer. Shake it up, because if you sniff it, it's odorless thinners and varnish. I'm sure that's all this is. So you could probably make, if you run out, you could probably make some, it's enamel again. I always do this. I know I'm obsessed with decanting stuff, but I don't like using stuff straight out the bottle, because I don't like contaminating the bottle that I'm using. You know what I mean? I know it's a bit sad. And I'm trying to use the biggest brush I can, because again, when you look at this in 1/35th, if you thought it was 1/35th, that'd be like a normal size brush, wouldn't it? With this big stuff, it's a bit of a pain. So and you just try and get it to, don't try and attack the surface too much, because you'll move all of the pigments you've put on already. Okay, because it'll work like odorless thinner. And it's a tricky thing, because you don't put too much on, because again it will make the pigments that you put on come away and pull. So I'm gonna actually lift this up a bit more, and I'm gonna do the same here. But can you see what I'm doing? I'm trying not to disturb what I've put on. That's why I'm wondering with this tank this size, if it would be better just use the airbrush to spray the fixer on, because I'm pretty much sure you could spray it straight on and then it should be right. But then you have to ask yourself, if you use a spray gun, will then the air from the airbrush blow all the pigment out? Anyway, look, I'll show what it's like when it's dried off. Right, so there it is with all the fixer on. It looks gloss, but it doesn't dry gloss, it will just dry matte. I didn't have to fix any of this stuff, because like I say, I'd mixed it up with the other products, so the splashes and the thick mud, and then it holds the pigment in as well. Just remember that pigment is just paint that doesn't have a character, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done, and then we'll add some more mud, maybe a little bit more built up pigment, and put pigment fixer on it. So if I just quickly show you, I'll show you what I mean by building up and putting pigment fixer on, it turns it into mud. Let me just put this here and I'll be 2 seconds. So this has had pigment fixer on. This is just European Earth. And if you can see, I've built it up. There's some texture there. It looks splashed, you know, splash mud. You can use it also as streaking, splashing. You know, it's handy. All right, but so do you see, this is just all pigment. I've run this, as you can see, there's a video on this running in outside. None of this comes off, it's all on there. It's all on there fine, it's not going to move. All right, if you're worried about it moving, it doesn't. Okay. Right, so the other thing you can do as well, while the pigment fixer's fixing, you can get some more pigment and you can add it as well to give a bit more texture. Yeah, do you see it's got a bit more texture? And that will dry with that texture and it won't come off. Okay, let me just do another little teeny bit to show you what I mean. Don't do all of them. I might do a little bit. And there. A bit. You see? So it just adds that as well. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's dried. Okay, so let me just carry on with that. So that's just pigment straight from the thing into the fixer. All right. But can you see the texture? And I might not even put mud on this. I might leave it at that. Let me have a think. You see the top hole? That's just all pigment. And when it dries, hopefully the wheels will look a bit like that, a little teeny bit more muddy. And I don't want it to overdo it. Here, shouldn't need pigment fixer. There. See? That shouldn't need pigment fixer because it was mixed with the mud and splashes stuff, so it sticks it onto it. If you look at the rear, I don't need pigment fixer on that because it's within the mud and splashes, which has varnish in it, which holds the pigment. Okay, and that's all pigment fixer is. So look, I'm gonna let that dry, and we'll come back to it, and I'll show you what it looks like. Hi everybody, hope you have a nice Sunday. It's Mothering Sunday, so if there's any of you that out there that are mothers, then happy Mother's Day. So look, this is the final effect of the pigment with pigment fixer. Okay, so I've knocked off anything that didn't quite stick, but can you see it's got volume, and it's worked quite well. I always use pigment. What I'm going to do next is add some more mud mixture that's a bit thicker in places and some splashes. But I think, if you look, I think that's pretty much the same. This is more mudded. I don't want to make it as mudded as this because, if you can see, this has got much more damage. It's a bit more damaged, sort of thing. A bit more chipping and everything else. This is, I want to be a bit more factory fresh, if that makes sense. So you got that, and you got mine. Okay. I'm going to make up a mud mix as well. So I'm going to use heavy earth, put a bit of Russian earth in it to bring the colour a bit closer because it's a bit chocolateier than I want for this. There's also, I'm going to use splashes, which are pretty much close to the other earth. I've also got some leaves. You see those? One of these. Green Stuff World Leaf Maker. They're great. I'm sure this is one for 1/16th. I'll have to look it up. I'm sure I got it for 1/16th. But they do smaller ones as well. So you can get one in 1/35th and do a mixture of different sized leaves. It's kind of cool. And you can use the actual leaves that you're using. So I think there's oak. I think there's oak there. Maple. Can't remember now what else there is. But there's 4 different types. And I'm also going to put a little teeny bit of this in. Okay, which is scenic grass. All right, 4mm. You can use seed balls, but you've got to try and find some. AK used to make some, but I don't think they do anymore. So let me make this mixture up, and we're just going to put a little teeny bit more in the running gear. I'll take the top off again, so it's easier to do. I know I should have broken the tracks, but yeah, so looks like that at the minute, and I'm going to put a bit more on, and then I'm going to show you how it looks now. Okay.